Hey y'all, it's Kelly Clarkson with Wayfair, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. Picture this. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app when you spot it. A brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Why do you need to build your storytelling skills? Stay tuned and find out.
Welcome.
Okay, here's the question.
Serious?
How are we dark horses? You know, the ones everyone is betting against, the ones they don't expect to win, place, or even show on the track, and they'll even laugh on us when we talk about trying. How do we show the world our greatness and triumph?
Come on.
Well, that's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. This is The Dark Horse Entrepreneur. My name is Tracy Brinkman.
And push it up.
What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my Dark Horse friends and family? Welcome back to another episode as we go live here. And I will start you off with a question. Do you need to build your storytelling skills, right? And I think you already know the answer to that is yes. But here's a question here I want to start you off with really is when you think about storytelling, what does that mean to you, right? Do you picture those moments where maybe mom, dad, or grandma and grandpa, were taking you to bed and they tucked you in and they sat down next to you and you picked out a book and they opened it up and they read some of that to you to put you to sleep. I know I did that with my girls for the longest time. We actually had this really big storybook of 365 stories that we could read to them, one for every night. And if we think about it, every single conversation we have with someone is us telling a story, sharing something from the past, the present, the vision of the future. I mean, I just shared a little story with you about, telling stories to my girls. And I think the reason why storytelling is really so powerful and is a skill we need to develop, well, I just kind of answered that, didn't I? It's because it is powerful. And if we think about across time in our history, there have been any number of leaders, good and bad, that have used the power of storytelling and oration in good ways as well as bad ways. I mean, let's use the obvious one. Hitler and his power of oration, he rallied the youth of Germany to do horrendous things. And then on the flip side, you had Winston Churchill, who rallied the Axis, right, against the Nazis and all the powers that come to be, and obviously those are some extreme examples, but if you can think about across time, anyone you've dealt with, and I'm talking, when I say across time, it doesn't have to be hundreds of years ago. I say, as I look back, it could be yesterday. It could be today when you were listening to something maybe on the news or in your social media feed, someone shared a story with you that hooked you, that grabbed you by the collar and said, pay attention. It grabbed you emotionally. It grabbed you intellectually, however it was. But here's the thing. Not everyone really, knows that it's important to grow your storytelling skills. And not everyone knows how to tell stories, right? I mean, that's kind of a problem, right? You want to build your skills as a storyteller. You want to become a good storyteller because it's it can be critical to your success in personal and professional life, right? Because you're going through and you're still in the cubicle world and you're going to give an interview and they ask you a question and you want to relay the answer via a story. And you want the story to be articulate. You want it to be moving. You want it to be impactful. Well, the same thing in your business life, right? Maybe you have a product can help someone. You can't just sit there and tell them this will help you, right? I just lost you right there. You've got to go beyond just the everyday conversations. You've got to go beyond just the facts and the data, right? You've got to get in there add a little emotion to it. And that's where storytelling begins to really develop its life, is when you take facts and data and you combine it with some emotion, right? And you draw these pictures that people can connect with in a much deeper way. than just, everybody that gets on a podcast sees a 10% lift in their salesmanship, whatever it is, right? I mean, that's just a fact. But if I get here and I tell you a story of someone who just came out of prison and no one would give them a job, and he decided to start a podcast, and as a result of that podcast, he started seeing people pay attention to him because he had great information to share. And now he's doing six figures and he's rubbing elbows with millionaires. I could tell you that story in detail and you're like, whoa, well, if he could do it, I could do it, right? I can start pulling you in and drawing you along. And we go with things like combining facts and data with emotion. I know anyone who was alive when 9/11 happened, I can just about guarantee you, I'm going to go ahead and say I guarantee you that anyone that was, older than 5, maybe say older than 7, remembers what they were doing and exactly where they were when that happened. I know I do. Right? And it's that facts and all that emotion combining together. Obviously it was a tragic event, but that's just a great example where, some other things in your life when your favorite team won the Super Bowl back in 1987, you might not quite remember so detailed. Then again, maybe you're a passionate football fan and you would. So you could do that. But storytelling is a super powerful tool, and our ability to communicate effectively and using this tool is when, again, like I mentioned earlier, is when you combine these communication tools of taking the data, that bland information, and for many people it is very bland information, and integrating it with stories. I know one of the folks I've grown up with, and I say grown up, I probably didn't get introduced to them until I was in my 30s, maybe late 20s, were like the Zig Ziglars and the Jim Rohns and the Les Browns of the world, who could take these amazing stories where you're like, I'm not sure where he's going. All of a sudden he weaves it right in to the story of, improving your life, improving your business, improving your salesmanship, whatever it is. These guys have taken that storytelling skill and just really mastered it, you might say. So I would say you definitely want to practice honing your storytelling skills through all the different methods of just using what I'm phrase. I'm going to move my notes over here so I can remember a couple things. There we go. By using language that elicits visuals, right? So if I sit there and I tell you, a number of you are very aware of my daughter who passed away, and I could take you in. And I remember doing a speech on this. It was actually probably about 3 or 4 months after it happened. It took me that long to be able to give a public speech on this very moment. But I did this. I had to do a dramatic speech for Toastmasters, and I decided I was ready to step in to this moment and share it in this powerful way. And so what I decided to do is reenact the moment when I wrapped my baby up in her favorite blanket and rock her to sleep one last time, and share some of the words that I shared with her in her last moments in my arms. And I did that, and here we are. I still worked at Coca-Cola at the time, and they called me up. Hey, is Tracy Brinkman's going to be doing his dramatic speech called, and I can remember the title I gave it. It's kind of irrelevant at this point. And without saying a word, I walked down from my seat in the audience. There was probably about 30 people were in the audience. I walked down without saying a word, and I had a doll wrapped in a blanket. And I set it down in the chair, and I walked over to the lights that were controlled for the room, and I turned all the lights down except for a center light beaming down on this chair where I just set the doll. Right next to that, I set a laptop, and I started it, and it played a heart monitor. Beep, beep, beep. Then I sat down, and I picked up the doll, and I held it in my arms, and I started rocking slowly. And I started talking, telling, this doll the things I had told my daughter a few months prior about being thankful for her having been here and showing me how to look at the world through new eyes. Beep, beep. And how I wish she could be here longer, but I understand why she couldn't. Beep, beep. Right? Single beam. It's all dark everywhere. And I'm lowering my voice enough, but everyone could still hear me. But some maybe folks in a couple of rows back were leaning forward to hear me a little better and would continue talking. Beep, beep. And saying, reminding her of all the great things we had done together and that I was going to do everything I could to honor her and her memory, that all the lessons she had given me and the memories that she had left me with. Beep, beep. But I wanted her to go and be happy and be free and watch me honor you, Krista. Beep. And you heard gasps in the audience when that heart monitor just went flatline. Now, mind you, I'm holding a doll, right? But I had everyone so hooked. That's the power of storytelling that you can use to your advantage. Now, you don't want to abuse things, right? And that's why I'm sharing with you, because I know you guys will use this in an ethical manner, is that, I had drawn them all in to a point where they were leaning in and they were on the edge of their seat with every word that I was sharing. All of a sudden, bam, I hit them with a beep, which is exactly what I had heard in that room, just a few months before that. And I turned the computer off, set the doll down, closed the computer, turned the lights back up, and I shared with them my passion for organ donorship, so that moments like that didn't have to happen to other mothers and fathers as their children could no longer wait on the waiting list. So you could see just that one little simple example. Hopefully I had you leaning in, listening a little bit, sharing, drawing you in with the little sounds and the tonality and the pace. I changed my pace a little bit because usually I'm talking pretty fast. But for that, I slowed it down to bring you into the drama that was going on. So there are plenty of resources that help you grow your storytelling skills. Maybe I'll tap into a few of those, but let me share with you a couple of quick bullet points you want to share for your stories. You're always going to want to try and be as original as possible. And if you're not being original, share the source. Right? It's okay if you're in a situation or a scenario where you need to tell the perfect story, but it's not your story. Well, just say that. It's not my story. This is a story I heard, a story I saw, but I wanted to share it with you. Okay? But that helps bring in the second point, which is always be authentic. Right? Don't just fake it till you make it. It's, hey, this is where I'm coming from. This is what it's all about. People will feel that and they're going to lean in even more as a result of that. And then have empathy, right? Feel and be felt. It goes both ways. And then always be consistent with your stories. And if you're inconsistent in a story and there's a reason for it, share. I know recently I saw someone who I looked up to, and they had, let's say a few months ago, been very passionate about a new platform that had come onto the social media scene. And then most recently here, I saw a post from them where they put it down pretty aggressively. And so that those two opposite views with no reason in between was a bit confusing to me. And now it makes me wonder, you almost want to question their sincerity when you get those kinds of opposing things. For me, it would have been like, hey, this is awesome, but something has happened. It's kind of changed. It's not so cool anymore. So now, I'm off the bandwagon, and here's why. Okay, well, I get that. That's a consistency. You're like, hey, I get it. It's awesome, but now things are happening differently, and it's, new rule, whatever the reasons are. But when you don't have any reasons, you just go from right to left. People are going to go like, what was that all about? All right. So just a few little tidbits about storytelling and the benefits that you can reap personally and professionally in your business and in your life. All right. Think successfully. Take action.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in.
Check us out at www.darkhorseschooling.com.
All right.
My name is Tracy Brinkman.